Stress is anytime you're putting weight or resistance against something. Strain is when you're putting that weight or resistance against something too quickly, or if you're putting too much resistance against something. So in the human body, stress is very helpful for building up muscle. You can press against something, you can put resistance against your body, and by putting that resistance, either via a weight or an exercise band or something isometric, you're actually building muscle. But if you put that weight too quickly or you put too much weight, then you have a strain. And the only way to heal from a strain is by resting. So what happens is the reason why people tend to get strained in exercise is the same reason why we get strained in anything in life. It's because we're oftentimes impatient and we want to try to get it all done at once. What that does is it tends to delay your progress because, like I said, if you strain something, whether it's a muscle or whether it's something mental or emotional, the only way to heal from that strain is by resting it. So a lot of times when we are trying to grow spiritually, we think more is better. And if we just can just get all of our lessons done at once, why we're going to just become these spiritual masters overnight. And oftentimes what happens is you try to do too much and you get a spiritual, emotional, or mental strain. Then you have to rest, give it a rest. And that's where our term slowly is holy comes from. The idea that in order to speed up your progress, you have to slow down. In order to accelerate your enlightenment, you have to slow down. Very much like with the body, if you increase resistance, you do increase your strength. So if you're working on anything spiritual, there are always different kinds of exercises or even different kinds of experiences that the universe will send your way that will put some resistance against you so that you can grow. And those are the lessons that we have in life. But if you have too much resistance, or if that resistance is applied too quickly, then you will be injured. And a spiritual injury is not any less painful or serious than a physical injury, or an emotional injury, or a mental injury. They're all the same. In order to avoid having injury, it's important that we don't overload ourselves. And what I see happen quite a bit is that people really just want to get there. They have this idea that there's a place that they need to get to. I'm not there yet. I'm just so not enlightened, or I'm just so not powerful, or I just don't have enough magical understanding. So more, faster. And then they go through what a lot of us call witchcraft burnout. And then they just don't want to do anything. And then it can take even years sometimes for them to come around again and start practicing again and start to get their groove on again. That can be avoided by recognizing that your progress is made most quickly the slower you take it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you got to always go at a snail's pace, but it means that you do need to monitor yourself as you go along and see, is my practice increasing my level of physical or mental or emotional stress to the point where it feels like I'm getting a strain? Or is the stress that's being applied actually making me stronger? Is it making me stronger? There's almost a dichotomy that happens, especially with things like meditation, because with meditation, the whole idea is to relax. It's to relax the body. It's to relax the mind. It's to open the mind to inspiration and intuition so that you start receiving wisdom right directly from source. And the way that you receive that wisdom right directly from source is by opening your mind to it and quieting your mind from all of those distracting thoughts and quieting your body from all those distracting tensions, so that your aura can expand and that your soul can start to shine through. That can feel very challenging, and it can feel much more difficult than running a marathon or lifting a heavy weight, because isn't it true that things in the spirit sometimes are opposite than the way they are in the physical? So the relaxation and the peace and the openness that we are looking for in much of our meditational practices can be just as much of a strain on us if we try to go too far too fast. I like that magic minute that we teach. We start with just a minute. Once that gets to be doable for you, then you can increase it by another minute, and then another minute, and then another minute. Eventually, you're going to be doing 20 minutes, but you try to sit and meditate for 20 minutes, you're going to strain. It's going to be a strain, and you're going to feel very disappointed, and you're going to shut things down, and you're not going to want to come back to it anymore. Slowly is holy. Slowly is holy. We were talking about your sphere of influence and expanding your sphere of influence, the influence that you have magically over situations. That sphere needs to be expanded slowly so that you're not, what I say, overtaxing your faith. That's a lot of what goes on with expanding our sphere of influence is our faith in what's possible expands. But if you try to go too far too fast, you injure, you bruise that faith. And it takes a long time sometimes to rest and recuperate and start to feel like you can have faith again in magic because you went too far too fast and you injured yourself. It's very, very helpful and very powerful to recognize that less really is more in magic. Slowly is really holy in magic. Sometimes the slower you go and the more gentle you are with yourself, the more quickly you progress. When you're getting a massage, you want the massage therapist to go deep enough that they're making a difference, but not so deep that you can't relax. And as you get more advanced in your ability to receive massage, you can accept a deeper and a deeper massage, a deeper tissue massage, as you are capable of letting go and relaxing. Or let's say you're in a stretch class where you're stretching your muscles. You don't try to stretch to your full extent right away. You only stretch to the point where you're capable and willing to let go of those muscles. Little by little, slowly is holy. And that's what meditation can be like. It can be like a massage or a stretching. You have to allow yourself to have that exquisite pain that we have when we're getting a massage, or that exquisite pain when we're stretching. It's very similar when we're meditating. There's that sort of exquisite discomfort that you must go through when you're being quiet and still and relaxing and letting go. And trying to do too much too fast with that can get you very disappointed and it can cause injury. And people don't recognize what spiritual injury is. But anytime that you've tried to do something and you got all burned out and you quit, that's a spiritual injury. That's what we're talking about. That's an injury that's non-physical, but it's just as profound as a physical injury. And you have to honor that. And if you have injured yourself in the past and you've given up your practice or whatever, and you've started again, that's fine. It's nothing to feel ashamed about. It's just something to learn by. You just learn by that, and you say, I'm not going to go so far so fast. I'm going to take things slowly, one little step at a time. Now, if you're listening to that inner guidance that we talk about all the time, your inner guide is never going to say, go, 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 faster, faster, harder, harder. That's not the way the guide ever works with us. The guide just gently coaxes us, just gently beyond what we think we're capable of. It's the ego mind that wants to shut things down. So the ego either distracts you completely from spiritual practice altogether, or it takes the spiritual practice and makes it its own thing. A lot of times the ego will take your spiritual practice and it will distract you from the goal of that practice by getting all into the accoutrements of it. And then that's the only thing that's important to you. It's not so much that you're relaxing and having a connection with infinite intelligence. It's, well, what's your body posture? And what's your breathing technique? And how many crystals do you have? And not that those things aren't helpful. And I mean, we're not saying you shouldn't have those things, but the ego is only interested in those things. Because then if you can get distracted by all of the accoutrements of whatever your spiritual practice is and not really focus on doing the work, that's wonderful. It's like somebody that goes out and shops for the gym clothes and shops for the gym equipment and does all of that and gets all the right music and everything, but doesn't really work out or just sort of works out, just sort of play acts at working out, but never really does anything, but has all the, the best clothes, the best gym membership, all of that. We do that with our spiritual practice too. So that's one side of it. That's that the ego does. But what we're talking about today that the ego does with your spiritual practice is it encourages you to go so far that you burn out. And it encourages you to rush into it to the point where it knows that you're going to give up because you will have some sort of injury that needs to be tended to. So recognize that when you are being prodded and plotted internally to go, faster, faster, harder, harder, that's the ego mind trying to distract you from getting the benefit of your spiritual practice. The best thing that any of us can do is to always learn to start again. Any moment of time and point of space. Start again. I'm just going to go back to the 1 minute. I'm going to go back to the grounding and centering. I'm going to go back to the orb of light. Whatever your basic practice happens to be. I'm going to go back to the basics. I'm just going to do the most basic thing I possibly can. And then I'm going to be guided and led onto the next step and the next step and the next step. There are certain times when it is appropriate for you to have a boot camp. We have a few of those. Some of the courses are boot camps. And the reason why we do that isn't so that you'll strain. It's so that you can move past some of the resistance that you may have. For instance, in the Prosperity and Money Magic course, it's a real tough 3 weeks. But it's only 3 weeks. And we're not expecting you to stay at that pace after that 3 weeks is gone. The reason why it's structured that way isn't so that you can strain yourself. It's so that you can really move past your resistance to having what you want. That's what that's there for. So sometimes it is appropriate to do that kind of thing for a very short set period of time in order to break through some of those ego blocks. And so that does have its place. And so that doesn't negate the slowly is holy concept. But as a general rule, the energy that we carry with us in our spiritual practice needs to be one of peace. Peace is still. Peace is quiet. It is the quiet mind that gets things done. And if we are straining and stressing and pressing too hard, too fast, I guarantee our mind is not quiet. And therefore, we are not accomplishing anything. The only thing that we're accomplishing is that ego goal to shut it down. If you are experiencing any of those trying times in your spiritual practice where you feel like you're just almost ready to burn out, that's not the goal. And a lot of people misunderstand. They think, well, I have to just push past that. I just have to push past that. No, you don't want to push past that. You want to stop. You want to just stop, take a day or two off, and then start again. You want to catch those strains before they become injuries, and where you have to have a long period off, where you don't do any more work. You want to avoid that. You want to avoid losing valuable time in your spiritual practice because you went too far too fast. Slowly really is holy. What I recommend when you're trying to get the understanding of this concept is take a week, and you're going to take a slow week, and you're going to say, what is the least I can do? What is the least I can do? And then still do it. And then still really do it. I'm going to do a minute of meditation every morning, or maybe a minute in the morning and a minute at night. And that's it, no more. Maybe if you're doing Psalm Magic, I'm going to do Psalm 23 for a week, and that's it. No more spiritual practice, right? I'm going to do my daily purifications, and that's it. Now, if you're doing a witch's primer, slowly is holy is already built into it. That means you just do a witch's primer. That's all you're doing. You're not going to say, okay, now I'm going to pile on this, and then I'm going to pile on that, and I'm going to pile on this. No, I'm going to focus on the thing that I'm doing. I'm focusing on the primer. I'm doing the work that the primer has me do. I'm not going outside of the primer. After the 18 weeks, I can do anything I want. But I'm going to do my training within this context, and I'm not going to start overloading myself with stuff that's not even in the course. Not that we're saying only witch's primer for the rest of your life, but while you're doing it, for those 18 weeks, that's it. Just do that. Why would you want to overload yourself with stuff that's not even in there? Or if you're doing that basic angel magic course, just do the course. There's plenty on the course. That's what always cracks me up. People take the basic angel magic course and they say, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? Don't you have enough to do? There's so much in there. You want to add more stress to your life by bringing stuff that's not even in the course? No. You can investigate that stuff after you've done this. Slowly is holy. One thing at a time. One thing at a time. This is true not only in the craft, this is true in life. When you notice that you're rushing, remind yourself that nature doesn't do that. Nature doesn't rush. Nature doesn't try to cut corners. Nature doesn't push through. Nature is very patient. And since nature's patient, so should we be. Our patience is probably more difficult for us than anything at all. Taking things slowly, taking things one step at a time, letting things blossom forth in their own season, learning how to wait. That line in the Psalms, wait on the Lord. Wait on the Lord. Waiting on the Lord is part of a spiritual discipline. It's part of a spiritual practice. It's not something that's there to torture you and say, well, are you sure you want it? It's part of the manifestation process, is learning how to wait on the manifestation, allowing it to ripen. Nature doesn't put excess hormones in its fruit so that they grow faster. Nature doesn't try to quicken the ripening process of something. Nature knows exactly which amount of time is appropriate for which piece of fruit or for which vegetable or for which tree or for which whatever. Everything has its perfect time and its perfect season because nature understands that slowly is holy. Nature has all the time in the world. But see, that's the thing about this world. This world, since this world seems to be a world of death, the way that we understand it, we think, well, I only have so many years, so I better pack it all in there before I go. But then we're missing the whole point. We're missing the whole point of why we're here. We're here to open up and become more of who we are as souls, not more of who we are as personalities within this time-space continuum that we think we're involved in. We are here to blossom forth as souls. And we have to remind ourselves, we didn't create our souls. Those are not of our creation. Just like apples didn't create themselves from the tree. So since apples didn't create themselves, apples get to wait until apples are ripe. And you get to wait. You get to wait until you are ripe. And your soul knows exactly what it's doing. Nature knows exactly what it's doing with you. And if you just step back and let higher intelligence lead the way, one step at a time, you're not going to ever go through those periods of time where you feel like you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong thing, and you better hurry up because time is wasting. You're not going to have that experience because you're understanding that you didn't create yourself, and therefore it's not your timetable. Your timetable is artificial. And the interesting thing about that is when you really get into that, when you really understand that, the more you understand that it's not my timetable, it's the infinite intelligence's timetable, it's spirit's timetable. Once you understand that, you recognize you don't need to grow. You don't need to blossom. You don't need to do any of that because you're already perfect. You were already created that way, right? But it's going through that slow, steady experience of feeling like you are learning one little step at a time and letting things be the way they are without rushing. It's through that process that we come to understand that everything's already perfect. And that there is a perfect expression of who we are, and there's also a perfect expression of the world that has yet to reveal itself to us because we are so busy trying to rush everything. So as we slow down and take it easy and allow ourselves to be led and guided on the path, one little step at a time, the real world is revealed to us. Our true selves are revealed to us. And not only that, but the people that we encounter are revealed to us as well. Because we don't know people like we think we do. We don't know anybody the way we think we do. who they really are would really shock you. Who these people really are would shock you. And once we learn how to take things slowly and allow ourselves to be taught and guided and led little by little by little, without pushing, without straining, they are revealed to us as well. And we're all spiritual giants here playing a game that we're little competitive children. And that's not the truth. That's not who we are. That's just a game that's being played out in this world. But when we stop and we relax and we slow it down, then we recognize that there's a world that's beyond the world that we think we see. And that world is very peaceful. That world is very patient. That world is very holy. And that world definitely has a tendency to reveal itself to us, maybe in glimpses at first, but over and over, when we take our time and we allow ourselves to slow down and let Infinite Spirit take the lead, and we're going to be the followers rather than the leaders, then we start to see things differently. And the more we start to see things differently, the easier it is for us to relax into that slowness, that relax into that peace, relax into that pace that is not a pace anymore. See, because we're not on the journey that we think we are, and we'll never know what the journey that we're on is until we slow down. The destination that we are thinking that we are headed toward is not the destination. The destination that we're headed toward is the place that we are already living in. It's just that we don't see it. We don't experience it. We can't, because we're too busy. We're too rushed. We're too preoccupied with the way we think things are, and that things aren't where they need to be, so we better get busy. And that busyness is what keeps that false world in place, that illusory world in place. Slowly is holy. And that when we take our time and we let ourselves not be rushed, and we let ourselves be guided and led, and we let ourselves be the follower and be the student and be the child, rather than trying to think, no, I want to be the teacher. I want to be the boss. I want to be the adult. Instead of that, we are going to say, I don't know what lies before me. I don't understand what I think I see, but I'm willing to be shown. And the only way to be willing to be shown is to slow down, is to take it easy, to relax the body and the mind and say, I have nowhere I need to be. No matter what the world is screaming at me right now, I have nowhere else that I need to be than right here, right now. And everything here and now is absolutely perfect, just the way it is. And I'm going to accept everything just the way it is right now. And that's the great alchemy, because when you can do that, then the way everything is right now starts to show itself as the gold that it truly is, rather than the lead that we think we are confronted with. So that alchemy of slowness is everything. So let's just commit ourselves to having a week of slow, having a week of holy. Thank you so much for spending a little time with me. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.